Welcome to this episode of To The Point. In a world that we live in, 2020 has a sick sense of humor, and November decided it wanted to continue the sense of humor with dealing with everything going on. It's the election and COVID and going back into quarantine, and thought we should get a guest on that's not political, not talking about sports, not going to talk about COVID, but going to talk about emotional detox. And we're going to find out exactly what that means. We have an amazing guest today. Sherianna Boyle is joining us. And let's bring Sherianna here as I'm all fancy using all my fancy gadgets here. And we'll bring, that's not Sherianna, that's me. There we are. That's how technology works. Eric pushes the wrong button. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
It's good to have you here on this wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you.
So here we are, 2020. And you are an international emotional detox coach. And before we get into that, you must be really busy in 2020 because there's a lot of us sitting in our houses. My wife just made this comment to me this morning over coffee. She said, I'm noticing a turn in people's social where you could tell people are starting to really see it. Not the election. Election really didn't, it caused some people to be crazy, but COVID and restaurants and small businesses, she's seeing a difference in the tone of people on social and Instagram stories. So interesting enough, here you are, I'm talking to an emotional detox coach. So break down what an emotional detox coach is, because people sure want to know, and then we'll dive into some questions. Kind of break it down so we have a level playing field here.
Yeah. So first of all, emotional detox is a term that a lot of people use, but nobody really dove into exactly what that is. So I kind of created my own platform for that. And emotional detox, it's based on a mindset. Mindset is that your emotions are not the problem. It is your reaction. So our reactions, we react, either suppresses or processes our emotions. And when you suppress your emotions, you're going to have consequences for that. You're going to have maybe some, anxiety or stress, or like you were saying about your wife, that you're going to feel a little bit numb, you may feel out of sorts, you might start to feel a little depressed, and that certainly is going on quite a bit right now. So the point of an emotional detox is not to get rid of the emotions, it's to release the reactions. And when you release the reactions, what happens is the emotions are allowed to be processed. And I describe it best like food. So if you have a piece of food and it's got a lot of pesticides on it, it's got a lot of chemicals on it, it's not going to be as nutritious for your body. It's the same thing with our emotions. If you pour a lot of reactivity on them, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of ranting and raving, or whatever people do, or numbing or withdrawing, if you pour all that stuff onto your emotions, it's like pesticides, and they're no longer. So when you learn to release the reactions, the emotions actually begin to serve you. And it's like you gain something from that. So that's what an emotional detox is about. It's about clearing the reactions, processing the emotions, and when you're going to feel better, and things will change. And the outcome will be a lot better than had you not.
I like that we're talking about this, because I feel this is a very key, not only coming into the holiday season, but 2020 is rough. COVID isn't making it easy, and I think it's important that folks learn how to do this. So when you came up with emotional detox, obviously, mindset is a big thing. We talk about that all the time, especially on the show, mindset over matter. With my military background, we try to, we're always mind over matter, because as you understand, complaining only gets you so far. It just makes you feel better. It doesn't solve the problem. You still got to attack the hill. This is what the Marine Corps always used to tell us: adapt and overcome. A lot of people don't have that mindset. They struggle with it. They struggle separating. But I come from a world also where we talk about things dealing with the VA and a mindset. And it's easy to get emotional because it's hard to detach from everything you're seeing. It's information overload. These phones are blessings and curses at the same time, because it becomes like driving like by an accident, I feel, where You don't want to look, but you do, like everybody else. So you get caught up and you're like, I don't want to be on it. I don't want to be on it. So what advice are you giving folks, before we get into other things, what advice are you giving people to avoid that? Like, we use the word detox pretty strong, I think, everywhere. What are you doing to get people to become less emotional to what they're seeing? Because you see a lot of people on social getting all fired up, like hating their own family members over cheesy things.
Right. Well, I don't recommend avoiding it, Eric, at all. I mean, that's how we got here. I recommend that if you are what I call them triggers, if you're being triggered by what you see on social media, I'm not saying you shouldn't curb social media. I absolutely think that it's contributing greatly to people's anxiety, and I've written books on anxiety. However, if something is coming up over and over again, for example, if you are revisiting an emotion, let's say the emotion of anger, let's say the emotion of frustration, that means that you're supposed to pay attention to it. And it's looking to be processed. It's not trying to drive you nuts. So I don't recommend avoiding. I recommend recognizing that I'm getting triggered by whatever this person says, let's say on social media or a family member at the kitchen table. Okay, I'm getting triggered. That means, right? That means that something is coming up in me that is looking to be processed. And here's the kicker, Eric. I know everybody wants to say it's the cause of current events, but the reality is these emotions have been sitting inside of us, waiting to be processed for a very long time. And what is happening in the world is a reflection of that. And it's called emotional suppression. And now we have this big, nobody wants emotional suppression anymore. Everybody wants to be able to feel what they feel, right? And it's looking to come up, to be healed, to be processed, so that we can begin to create a world that we all want to live in. I don't think there's any disagreement there. I think pretty much everybody wants the same thing. It's just everybody sees a different way of getting there. But my job as an emotional detox is to really pay attention to how you're reacting and teach people how to process, because nobody's been taught this, Eric. Nobody's taught this, and it's sneaky because there's a subconscious thing. And one of the things I was just helping with someone today is called regulating our love. We regulate it. We treat love like it's outside of us, like it's a faucet. Oh, I'm going to turn it on over here. Oh, for you, I'm going to turn it off. You get none. Zip. You get all of it, right? And we treat it like it's outside of us. And that's not what love is at all. So part of what is happening in the world is we're going to really start learning about love. And that is very, very, very exciting. But it's going to require learning how to process our emotions. And that does not look like reactions.
Yeah, that's very true. I love this topic. We're going to take a quick pause for the cause here. We'll be coming back in our next segment. But before you go, so folks, during this little break here, where can they find you? You have an amazing radio. Is it radio? What I always get confused when we talk about radio and podcasts, because everybody I know who has a radio show also turns them into podcasts. And it's so confusing these days with us streaming all amazing things. I want folks to go and check it out. I know I subscribed, but I used Spotify because I found you there, where I find everybody on Spotify.
Yeah.
So real fast before we go, you got about 30 seconds. Tell folks where they could find your show before we head into the break.
Sheriannaboyle.com. I'm going to confuse you more. I have two. I have a radio show and I have a podcast. I know, lucky me. So go to Sheriannaboyle.com and you'll find it there. You'll find two shows. Yeah.
Perfect. That's where you go, folks. When we come back from the break, we're going to jump in and talk more about anxiety and how we can deep dive into anxiety, because I know a lot of people have it. So stay tuned. We got more coming after you.